name is Ed. I'm the founder of a remote work disruptor called GoRemote and a co-workspace network in Cabo Verde called GoHub. Oh, that's a tricky question. Cabo Verde is such a country of variety. We've got 9 islands here, nestled in the middle Atlantic. We're part of a region called Micronesia, which is Canaries, the Azores, Madeira, and then to the south, level with Senegal, sits Cabo Verde. It's about 4 hours from Lisbon, 6 from London, Amsterdam, Paris, which means it's GMT -2, which is a great time zone for working. The climate year round is about 28 degrees, 360 days of sunshine. The variety, the cost of living is quite a bit lower than Europe. It's increasingly becoming a very popular go-to destination for people that want to work from somewhere that is on a European time zone, where the cost of living is lower, where internet connectivity is high, and then they can experience the variety and hospitality that Cape Verde has to offer. Interesting, not as many as you would expect, and of course we would hope for. There's a smattering of digital nomads spread across a couple of the larger islands, or larger in terms at least of tourism, those with international airports, so the islands of São Vicente and Sal and Boa Vista in particular. But as I say, there's 9 islands and so much variety. So we're really hoping over the next 2 or 3 years, post-COVID, as things really open up, that more and more nomads will discover Cape Verde, and it will become elevated on the radar of remote workers. Yes, there's a fantastic chap called Gonzalo Hall who actually set up a great project in Madeira and is doing some more work now in Portugal, and he spent some time over here in the summer of last year and into the autumn, and encouraged a number of pioneering nomads to move further south from Madeira, Azores, Canaries, and so there's a nice little community in São Vicente in particular, and as I say, we're seeing more and more individual nomads traveling to the islands of Sal and Boa Vista. I'd say at the moment it's really on the radar of quite an established community of nomads. As I say, it's very popular with the Portuguese and those that are familiar with the islands in Micronesia. And that said, we're starting to see more families traveling, particularly around the holiday periods, where I think working young professionals are choosing maybe to adopt the work from anywhere flexibility that their companies are giving them in Europe and extend their holidays over Christmas, over Easter, over summer, and perhaps bring their families with them. We're not quite there yet with established multinationals choosing to base any of their workforce here, but it's something that we are working on closely with the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Commerce over here. Cape Verde was one of a number of nations who were quite quick to respond, I think, partly, of course, to the pandemic and seek to diversify their tourism revenue and streams. And so one of the activities that the Ministry of Tourism undertook very early on back in 2020 was to establish a remote working visa program. This program enables nomads to come to Cape Verde initially on a 6-month visa, which is extendable to 12 months, to work from anywhere in the archipelago, free of income tax or any other liabilities, which is pretty attractive. The requirements are less than a number of other countries actually with such programs. There's a very low threshold in terms of income. Of course, you're required to have a health insurance policy, which is important over here. But other than that, the visa process is relatively straightforward, and that's one of the key things that the government's wanting to promote. There's then a whole raft of other projects that are interlinked with that related to the actual infrastructure for nomads. So we're talking about internet connectivity, co-working provision, and other elements which are coming together. Yes, we've now got a number of co-working spaces, which is great, particularly on the islands of Boa Vista, Sal, São Vicente and Santiago. Some of those spaces were already quite well established for the domestic co-working market, and a number of those spaces have now been opened in response to international remote working and supporting digital nomads in particular. Those spaces are increasingly improving their quality and have an environment and provision as good as you might find in some European cities, and the internet infrastructure is also really great in those spaces. We haven't yet got a formal co-living proposition over here, but I do know on the quiet a couple of people are working on that and are hoping to open a couple of locations over the coming months. Challenges, I think, you know what, getting here. Connectivity to the islands is really great, but we don't actually yet have a formal low-cost flights provider. So we've got wonderful flight connections from Lisbon with the national carrier TAP, flying to São Vicente, to São Boa Vista and the capital Praia. And that's also supported by other airlines, including SATA from the Azores, as well as, of course, charter flights from TUI, which serve most of the European hubs. So Brussels, German, Dusseldorf, Amsterdam, London, Birmingham, Manchester, Paris, and so on. So the connectivity is there, but the pricing isn't quite there at the moment. And I know the government is working very hard on that, particularly with the reintroduction of its own national carrier, TACV, to really drive down some of those prices. And we've just seen Vueling airline, the Spanish low-cost carrier, enter the market, serving the island of Sal. So I think over the coming months, we'll hope to see those flight connections improve and get cheaper. Other challenges, I would have said, had you asked me that question perhaps 2 years ago, I'd have said internet. But with the rollout of fibre optic nationwide, with 2 telecommunication providers, one of whom is providing microwave and really good 4G as well as fibre, we've got really good choice, really good speeds. I mean, I'm talking to you here on a 4G connection, and it's got 40 Mbps upload and download. So I think, long answer to your question, getting here is hard. Once you're here, very few challenges. There's a lot going on. I mean, I think for us, it's about creating an ecosystem, and that really is about working with the government as a stakeholder. It's about working with other private sector providers, accommodation providers, to understand mid and long stay rentals a little bit more than the traditional holiday market. And again, seek value in those areas. It's about the co-working provision that we've spoken about, and that's getting really great. And it's about pushing forward the other infrastructure challenges, as we've said, around internet. And then that piece around community. The community one's a real challenge because it's really hard to do until you've got people here. Once people are here, we've got great plans. We've got hosts on each of the islands. We've got wonderful events that we can offer. And there's something deeper here about Cape Verde when we have that community here, which is around the kind of knowledge exchange and the skills swap that we really want to engender. Cape Verde is really on a mission with the government, not just to see more digital nomads here and corporate nomads, but really to foster relationships between those communities when they are here. It wants to be an engine of change in terms of the digital economy here in the region in West Africa. And I think having digital nomads here and people here with different skill sets, shared experiences, and bringing them together is a fantastic opportunity for the country in terms of innovation, incubation, business development. So there's lots and lots of plans. I think one thing was to have the remote working visa program established so that people really can work here effectively without paying income tax. Another is to be able to get here, of course, with the connectivity, and then have that infrastructure. But I think with organizations such as ourselves, GoRemote, GoHub, with other local players, with the ministry kind of understanding the needs of nomads, we're very much on the right path. It's fantastic. I mean, there's so much accommodation because, primarily it is a tourist destination. That does present some challenges on some islands at some times of year, as you can imagine, in terms of pricing. And we're gradually educating a number of accommodation providers through GoRemote around the benefits of having year-round long and mid-stay offers. And by that I mean we don't offer accommodation below 28 days because that enables us to secure better long-term rates with providers. Things do fluctuate between islands, but you can find great deals. I mean, I know many apartment owners that are offering their apartments for €250 a month, 300 euros, great T1 apartments. So there's loads of choice. You've just got to be able to find it. Of course, I'm gonna plug GoRemote. Go to GoRemote as a website. Don't book through us if you don't want to. That's fine. But do research. There's a load of information on there. We've got a nomad guide to Cape Verde, and there's a whole raft of other platforms, of course, which you can seek out information. Cape Verde relies heavily on Facebook. The whole country runs off Facebook because there are not the sorts of platforms and infrastructures that we have elsewhere in the world. And so go to Facebook, you'll find there are really strong digital nomad groups, usually for each of the islands. So Digital Nomads, Cabo Verde, Digital Nomads, Sal, and GoRemote and folk like that. And speak to people, ping us a message, chat on the forums, and come and experience it, because I guarantee you once you are here, you'll either be staying or certainly returning.